This is Push, and you're listening to the Ill Brew Brooklyn Retrospect Illcast, where we explore individuals, organizations, and institutions of the diaspora contribution to the cultural landscape of Brooklyn.
Yeah, this is Big Push holding it down, keeping it around, and we are getting into our Finding Brooklyn session.
My God, I'm now Jekyll.
Some good friends, John Taylor, Shaka Taylor.
Hold on. You were born in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh yes, on Fulton Street in Brooklyn, between Ralph and Howard Avenue.
Okay.
And with my good friends Shaka Taylor, who lived around the corner on Howard Avenue, and then with Robert Burkett Hodari, who lived on the corner of Howard Avenue and Fulton Street.
Wow.
So that's where I'm born there, and went to PS 28 public school, which is right on Fulton Street there between Ralph and Howard. And growing up, in a family with two sisters, and my mother is head of the household.
Okay. All right. Okay. So what let's go back to how did you get into working in the community?
Well, first, before the community, I want to say that in that neighborhood was really something in the day. All, very vibrant. Every store you would want in the neighborhood, every grocery store, every meat market. So one of the things I did at 10 years old, I was working in every store in the neighborhood. The candy store was called Mary's Candy Store on Ralph Avenue and near Fulton. That candy store had been in the community for 50 years. I also worked they had a huge liquor store on Ralph Avenue. I worked in there with two men that were very good mentors for me. One was from Trinidad, one was from Barbados. Trinidad was Holly, and from Barbados was named Archie. And those were some great mentors for me growing up as male mentors. And then I worked in a shoe shop, which repaired shoes, with a guy named Sam Webb, who was from Little Rock, Arkansas.
Wow.
And he had a shoe shop there, and he allowed me to come and start shining shoes, and then he taught me how to do heels and soles behind the counter. And
it's a lost
then
art.
I worked. Excuse me?
I said that's a lost art right there.
Yeah. And then also worked in the fruit stand, which was called the Torsos. Of course, the candy store, Mary's Candy Store, was Italian, but the Torsos had a large fruit stand. We were unloading 1,500 watermelons every week from the trailers coming from Georgia and the South, and their name was the Torsos, Ann and Mike Torso. And that store I also worked, and what they would do, of course, is we'd unload 1,500 watermelons, and then 3 or 4 of us, they give us $10 to go auger over. You know what I'm saying? So that was my, my activity as a very young man, working in all the stores in the neighborhood.
Wow. Okay. So, bring us like up to speed in terms of how did you, how did you get to the community activism side of you? Was it the junior high school, elementary? What, where does that start to kick in for you?
Well, I'm gonna go even before that. Of course, on Fulton Street, there was a church there called St. Mark's Church that was very famous for musicians, for music in that church. Actually, Ben Vereen went to that church. People may not know it, but Ben Vereen is from Buffalo Avenue, in Bed-Stuy.
What?
Also,
I didn't know that.
yes. So also Jocelyn Brown, who
Wow.
did that somebody else's guy. She's from that church. So what happened, a member of that church used to have a little candy store, and we used to call him Mr. Cozy. Mr. Cozy came to me one day and said, I would like for you to give out some flyers and put up some posters for this politician. So I said, okay. So I started putting up the posters and flyers, and it was for a man named Thomas Fortune, who was an assemblyman there in Bed-Stuy, and he owned a whole lot of gateway cleaners, okay? He had a slew of gateway cleaners. And so I started putting up the posters and flyers, and then when he would win, he would have these parties around let's say, up on Bergen Street in Nostrand, I think, where the head office was. And so I would go to the parties, and everybody's celebrating his victory and everything. So that's like my introduction to the community activism and politics. But also what I was doing up in the office is I was up there one day licking envelopes and putting stamps on envelopes with a lady who gave me $2 to go get lunch, and he was grooming her, and that lady was Shirley Chisholm, who became the Congresswoman, Shirley Chisholm.
Wow.
So that was my beginning. Yeah.
A lot of information there. Wow. So, I mean, you're a young person, and I know the Ocean Hill-Brownsville piece jumps off. Is that the 60s or the 70s?
That's the 60s.
Okay.
So,
right.
Of course, myself and Shaka and Hodari, we all went to public school, 28, which is right on Fulton between Ralph and Howard. Now we graduate and we go to junior high school 271 up the street on Saratoga and Herkimer, and which is now known as Ocean Hill-Brownsville, junior high school 271. So when we get to that high school, the high school is basically, you're going there. You in they have the category of the classes. Class 1, class 2, all of that stuff. Where they putting students in categories. But anyway, what happened there is that after 7th grade, 8th grade, now what starts to take place is the Board of Education now decided that they was going to give the community more say in the education of their children. So once the Board of Education did that, they set up a governing central board, which had an office at Atlantic Towers there on Atlantic Avenue, and Rockaway there. And heading that board name was Rhodey McCoy, Mr. Rhodey McCoy, heading that board, which was to oversee this project that they was going to do. And the project was about, we're going to see what these community people do. So, when they brought the community in, now the community is governing. They're saying we're going to look at everything going on in these schools. It was that district in Ocean Hill-Brownsville. I think it might have went to a few other districts, but that was the main district they started at. And the community said, we're going to look at every aspect that's going on in this school. We're going to look at the teachers. We're going to look at the education. And any changes need to be made, we will make them. Well, lo and behold, the first changes they saw was that many of the students weren't getting the education that they should have been getting. So what did they do? Right away, they got together, had a discussion, and decided which teachers they thought were really doing a good job in educating the students, and the other teachers they decided was not doing a good job. They had to go. So now this is what's happening. Now you got, teachers being fired, and now, as you saw, one of the teachers said, if you look at the piece is in Eyes on the Prize, right after the piece in 68, 69, where they do the Black Panther Party, they go into a piece that says Education in Ocean Hill-Brownsville.
Right.
And you will see what's taking place there. So as one of the teachers said, his name was Brother Morris, he said, look, whenever teachers needed to be transferred out to other schools or whatever, there was no problem. But now when the community decided to do it, now it became a problem. So now you had the teachers union up in arms saying, you know, you can't get rid of these teachers. If we allow this community to do this, they're going to do it everywhere, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how Ocean Hill-Brownsville basically started. And to continue on, as we were at the school, now you have war breaking out because now the Board of Education decide they want to take it back. They're going to take whatever control the community had, they're going to take it back. And the community said no, and it was war. Okay?